What's up, mi gente? This is your host Andres, and I welcome you to Where You Listening, an exploration of blackness in the songs we love.
Our African heritage is present in different aspects of our society. Besides Puerto Rican bomba, there are other musical genres that have been greatly influenced by that heritage. We encounter our African heritage in our food. We encounter that heritage in the way we speak, in our vocabulary. We also find our African heritage in our literature. We've had leaders such as Pedro Albizu Campos, a black man who led the revolution for Puerto Rico's independence. Our African heritage is present in all the subjects you can think of.
Today, we have something special for you. We'll be listening to a medley of two songs, Llevo Mis Venas, I Carry It in My Veins, and Paré, The Bambula Is Happening, by the group Tambuyé, which is the music group associated with the Puerto Rican organization Tambuyé To. Tambuyé was founded in 2003 by Marién Torres López, and it is, I quote from their website, a cultural and social project that fosters our Caribbean identity, our African and indigenous heritage. It develops the historical and cultural link between Puerto Rican communities and the intangible cultural heritage of Puerto Rican bomba and other Afro-Antillean music genres. End of quote. As for Marién, who sings in the medley, she is just one of those incredibly talented but also very humble people that you sometimes have the fortune of encountering. Marién is the manager and director of Tambuyé, a professor at the dance department at Universidad Sagrado Corazón, a folklorist, dancer, musician, drummer, choreographer, singer, and cultural events manager. The woman keeps busy, which makes that much more meaningful the time she gifted us to talk about today's songs. I asked Marién about the meaning of the word Tambuyé, which she used to name her organization as well as the music group by the same name. Here's what she told me in the voice of our host, Melissa Vilores.
Pues mira, Tambuyé es una palabra en creol y significa tocador.
Tambuyé is a Creole word, and it means drum player. Every time I visit, when I have the chance to visit to learn from other bambula practices in the Caribbean, the word Tambuyé is always present. There are even streets dedicated to Tambuyé, to the drummers of those places. My musical approach is always tied to respecting the foundation by respecting what we learn from our elders and making decisions by consensus about where we're going to direct our group's efforts. My approach has always been to highlight the current struggles of those who perform bomba and recall the stories of those who have been made invisible. So many hardworking Black people and women in my country who revolutionized in their time have contributed to different aspects of our society and have been left unseen in our education when we talk about our history. So we sing these songs because when people sing them, they learn a little faster.
If you like bomba, you should definitely check Tambuyé's album, which includes today's medley. It's really, really good. In today's songs, Llevo Mis Venas and Bambulé Paré, Marién and the artists of Tambuyé reaffirm the Black heritage present in the practice of Puerto Rican bomba in all of its wonderful dimensions: music-related, dance-related, healing-related, you name it. Let's listen. Desde Loíza a Villa Palmeras, Guayama, Ponce, Mayagüez me espera. Con los tambores voy pa' la tierra porque la bomba la llevo en mis venas.
From Loíza to Villa Palmeras, Guayama, Ponce, Mayagüez is waiting for me. With the drums, I go to my land, because I carry the bomba in my veins.
What does it mean to you to carry the bomba in your veins?
Antes que eso, debo decir que está ese coro.
First of all, I have to share that the chorus of the song is written by Master Bombero Marcos Peñalosa Pica from Loíza. He's dedicated himself to Puerto Rican bomba and has stood out as both a bomba singer and a composer. To say that I carry bomba in my veins is a reaffirmation of our identity. It's a way of highlighting and telling stories about all that had to happen so that today we're able to dance bomba, understanding that this is a genre that was developed under slavery. In Marcos's case, he's from Loíza, a town that grew from formerly enslaved runaways and from freed Black people, away from the colonial European society at that time. So then the notion of carrying bomba in my veins is to carry all of that history, all of that Afro descendants and culture that is rich, diverse, and very powerful. That song becomes an affirmation of that Blackness and an affirmation of the powerful heritage that we have.
África deja en nuestra tierra un gran legado de música negra. Con mis tambores voy pa' la hacienda porque la bomba la llevo en mis venas.
África deja en nuestra tierra un gran legado de música negra. Con mis tambores voy pa' la hacienda porque la bomba la llevo en mis venas.
Africa leaves in our land a great legacy of Black music. With my drums, I go to my parcel because I carry the bomba in my veins.
Give us some examples of that legacy that Africa left in Puerto Rico.
Claro que sí, además de la misma bomba puertorriqueña.
Of course. So there's Puerto Rican bomba, which is the genre with the most influence and the most African heritage of our Caribbean Afro-Puerto Rican practices. And there are other musical genres from our African heritage, and genres that have been greatly influenced by that heritage, like the Puerto Rican plena, not to mention our modern music. In addition, we encounter our African heritage in our food, in the way we speak, and in our vocabulary, since we Boricuas use many words that come from our African heritage. We also find our African heritage in our literature, which is a literature that was initially narrated orally throughout history, but was later documented. We've also had great Afro-descendant writers who were visibly Black that have contributed so much to the history of our country. We've had leaders such as Pedro Albizu Campos, who was a Black man who led the revolution of Puerto Rico's independence at the beginning of last century. Our African heritage is present in so many aspects of our society, in all the subjects you can think of.
Cuando la tocan en las carreras, la baila Juana y la canta ella. Chichito toca la bomba nuestra, porque la bomba la lleva en las venas. Desde Loíza, Villa Palmera, Guayama, Ponce, Mayagüez me espera. Con los tambores voy pa' la tierra, porque la bomba la llevo en mis venas. Cuando yo siento la bomba nuestra, con este ritmo que es pura candela, mi alma vibra, mi mente vuela. Yo soy bombero de palma y arena. Desde Loíza.
Cuando la tocan en las carreras, la baila Juana y la canta Tella. Chichito toca la bomba nuestra, porque la bomba la llevo en las venas. Cuando yo siento la bomba nuestra, con ese ritmo que es pura candela, mi alma vibra, mi mente vuela, yo soy bombero de palma y arena.
When they play bomba en las carreras, Juana dances entre las scenes, and Chichito plays our bomba, because I carry the bomba in my veins. When I feel our bomba, with that rhythm that is pure fire, my soul vibrates and my mind fights. I'm a bombero of palm trees and sand.
And what does it mean to be a bombero de palma y arena?
Claro que sí, pues mira, las grandes regiones históricas en la práctica de la bomba.
Well, look, The great historical regions in the practice of bomba are all located on the coast of Puerto Rico. This is due to the location of the plantations and sugar mills that monopolized Puerto Rico's economy during the colonial period, and later during the beginning of the United States invasion of Puerto Rico. So the large batés develop around the context of this kind of work, the sugarcane, and the proximity to the coast. Our coast is also full of palm trees and full of sand. And most of the batés, even including the town of Loíza, where the composer of this song is from, are on the northeast coast of Puerto Rico, which has some extremely beautiful beaches. The palm tree is very important within our Afro-descendant practice, and the coconut is everywhere in our meals. Even the coconut shell is turned into the traditional masks of the vejigantes, which are our carnival masks, and those are completely African. So the palm tree and the sand continue to be a reaffirmation of the place where we belong, the place where we're from, and the place where this music has gestated.
Porque la bomba la llevo en mis venas. Desde Loíza, Villa Palmera, Guayama, Ponce, Mayagüez me espera. Con los tambores voy pa' la tierra.
Hey, it's me, Mel. I'm here to remind you that Were You Listening is a series of the Mixtape podcast which aims to center the contribution of Black people and culture across Latin America and its diaspora through dance and music. This episode of the series accompanies the episode Tócame La Bomba, Play Bomba To Me, of our second season. Check it out. You'll learn more about the wonderful and liberating evolution of bomba in Puerto Rico. Of course, I also want to remind you that if you want to practice your bilingual skills, mira si tú quieres practicar, there is also a Spanish version of this episode. Así que ve y lo escuchas en español también. Okay, let's get back to today's songs.
Porque la bomba la llevo en mis venas. Todos llegan hasta allá, se encuentran en el batey, la bomba ya va a empezar, tu Bambulé a Paré.
Todos llegan hasta allá. Se encuentran en el batey. La bomba ya va a empezar. Tout le monde Bambulé a Paré.
Everyone arrives there. They meet at the batey. The bomba is about to start. Everybody, the Bambula is happening.
As we mentioned earlier, today's episode contains a medley of two songs, La Llevo en Mis Venas, which we just heard, and Bambulé a Paré, which we have just started to hear. Tell us about the rhythmic differences between these two songs.
Pues la llevo en mis venas, como les dije.
Well, for La Llevo Mis Venas, like in the production of Tambuyé, I wanted to use the corbé rhythm, which is a 6x8 time signature for those of you who know about music and musical meters. It's a rhythm that is very intense, even cathartic, and it's a strong rhythm. The Yuba rhythm that I worked on in the arrangement of Bambulé a Paré is also a 6x8 beat, and it's a variant of the Yuba family of rhythms. There's the corbé, the Yuba, and countless of other Yubas with the 6x8 beats within the Puerto Rican bomba. So I wanted to work on the songs with the same musical meters, but with different rhythms that come from different regions of Puerto Rico. When I received this song, it was practically just a verse. That verse was written by my colleague, Master Bombero Victor Velez, who's a recognized bomba singer, drummer, artisan, a very valuable person when it comes to the practice of bomba. I had asked him to give me a chorus to start developing a song, and he told me, I can't make a song for you, but take this chorus and do whatever you want with it. And from there, I composed the official chorus and the rest of the song.
Anu dance bomba lan mu, nukata tambua pale. Anu dance bomba dudu, tout mon Bambulé a Paré.
Let's go dance bomba over there. You can hear the drums resound. Let's dance our beloved bomba. Everybody, the Bambula is happening.
Let's start with, what is the bambula?
Bueno, bámbula tiene múltiples significados. Es una palabra de herencia africana.
Well, Bambula has multiple meanings. It's a word of African heritage and means reconnection, to reconnect. And when we talk about reconnecting, we're not only talking about reconnecting with our ancestry and with that heritage that was cut off by slavery and by colonization. We're not just talking about reconnecting with all of that wisdom that was taken from us so violently. We're also talking about how we have continued reconnecting and rescuing these stories through vestiges that come to us little by little. Because we aren't taught to be proud of our African heritage, nor of our indigenous heritage. Bambula is like the umbrella term for all of the different genres that developed in the Caribbean within the same context of slavery and colonization. So for example, the Bambula of Puerto Rico is the Puerto Rican bomba. But there's also the tumba in Eastern Cuba and Santiago de Cuba. And there's also the guoca in Guadeloupe.
Also, in the translation from Creole, which you kindly provided us, the lyrics say, "You can hear the drums resound." Marién, you're also a drummer yourself, una barrilera. So as a woman, how has been your journey to become a barrilera?
Con muchísimos obstáculos.
With so many obstacles. The practice of the main percussion in Puerto Rican bomba, which is the barrel drum, has historically been a male-driven practice. This doesn't mean that there haven't been women barrel drum players, but they didn't allow women to perform publicly. So what can I tell you? I started as a bomba dancer, and I reached a professional position as a bomba dancer before I even thought about sitting in front of a barrel drum. It was so instilled in me and completely normal not to see a woman on the barrel drum that in my young adulthood, I didn't even question it at that level. Over time, as I've grown and learned about gender issues, about feminism, about social issues in general, I've developed a conscience and started to deconstruct all that discourse under which I was raised, and under which we continue to be raised, because we're still living in a patriarchal society. It's a daily fight to recognize that patriarchy individually so that we can be able to change it socially. So that process that ended up with me sitting on a drum was one of many, many, many walls to overcome. And we're still going at it. There's still a lot of work to do, a lot. That said, we can already see battés made entirely of women, 40, 50 female drummers playing together. And that happens at least once a year. We get together to honor the International Women's Day, and we create those immense battés of women. That's a historical precedent. It had never happened before in the practice of Puerto Rican bomba. Nowhere. Not in Puerto Rico, not in the diaspora. A batté completely made out of women. So it becomes a piece of history.
En el bate caribeño de bomba, guoca y belé, la tumba y la calenda suenan por los tambullé.
En el batey caribeño de bomba, guoca y belé, la tumba y la calenda suenan por los Tambuyé.
In the Caribbean batté, with bomba, guoca, and belé, the tumba and the calenda resound throughout the Tambuyé.
There is a number of words here that our listeners might not be familiar with. Help us understand this part of the lyrics.
Esa canción
When Victor originally gave me that chorus, the chorus he gave me was, everybody gets there, they meet in the batté. The bomba is about to start. Tout mon Bambulé à Paré. He gives me that hint of Creole. And that's when I said, wait a minute, this is where I'm going to bring in the Caribbean. I asked a close friend from Martinica, Marcel Clodion, to translate this Creole phrase, and he returned what became the song's chorus. So in Bambulé à Paré, you already see the word bambula, and one of the meanings of the word bambula is the event of playing bomba, or guoca, or belé from Martinique, or tumba from Cuba, or garifuna music from Central America, which uses the barrels, or the drums, very similar to the ones used in Puerto Rican bomba. These barrels were used to store grains and to transport liquids. Think about how those barrels that had different functions came to be the musical instrument that unite us across the Caribbean under one same history. When I start mentioning the different musical genres, the guoca, the belé, the tumba, the calenda, Those are all practices that use the barrel as a musical instrument, just like Puerto Rican bomba. These drums are not just unique to Puerto Rican bomba. They unite us with the rest of the Caribbean.
Tristezas y soledad, alegría y placer, todo allí se cantará. Nunca tratamos a valer.
Tristezas y soledad, alegrías y placer, todo allí se cantará. Nukata tambuapale.
Sorrows and loneliness, happiness and pleasure, everything will be sung there. You can hear the drums resound.
This part of the lyrics reminds me of something we've heard in several interviews from our Bomba episode of Season 2, that the bomba is healing. Talk to us about this characteristic of bomba, that everything is sung there, the happiness as well as the sorrows.
Pues mira, la bámbula es poderosa, porque cuando uno reconecta, uno empieza a sanar.
Well, look, Bambula is powerful because when one reconnects, one starts to heal. You even start to heal from things that your ancestors lived and that you didn't even know you were carrying. But when you recognize them, you start to deal with them. You face them and you start to heal. In bomba, there are rhythms for everything. Bomba has more than 30 different rhythms. It's almost infinite. And let's not even mention all the variants. These rhythms are vibrations in the drum that are closely related to our feelings and our human nature. There are rhythms for happiness, rhythms for sadness, rhythms for social issues, rhythms for revindication, rhythms for grief. There are rhythms for love and heartbreak. There are rhythms for loss, for victory. There are rhythms for everything, even anecdotal rhythms that are completely neutral. And within that family of rhythms is where the themes are developed. It's very interesting because just the very rhythm without any words, I'm talking about just the vibration of the drum, connects you to an aspect of your feelings. It takes you somewhere. And I'm not talking about something that hasn't been studied scientifically. This has been studied over and over. That vibrations affects people's moods or influence their frame of mind. Bomba rhythms aren't like that out of pure coincidence. Our people, our African ancestors, were an extremely brilliant people, studious and meticulous in their knowledge.
El buleo en mis entrañas, siento el cuerpo estremecer. Necesito bailar bomba, me esperan en el batey.
El buleo en mis entrañas, siento el cuerpo estremecer. Necesito bailar bomba, me esperan en el batey.
The buleo inside of me, I feel my body tremble. I need to dance bomba. They await for me at the batey.
And to finish our episode, a reflection from our host, Dr. Melissa Vilores.
It's no secret that bomba has been a special and enlightening rhythm for us to explore. Our interview with Marién in this episode powerfully represents some of what we hope to embody in our lives through this podcast and beyond. Like the recognition and embodiment of the excellence that comes with our African heritage, the reconnection with our ancestry, the creation of spaces and communities that facilitate healing, and the shaking up of expectations around women's gender norms and roles in music and society. Thank you, Marién, for your time in walking us through this special medley.
Marién, thank you so much for meeting us again to talk about your music and your artistic endeavors. And frankly, thank you for making us more aware of the issues present in our own cultures, because we sure know we ain't perfect. We look forward to seeing where your work takes you. And I also want to thank the Mixtape podcast team, my co-host Dr. Melissa Vilores, who edited this episode and served as Marién's English voice, Susan Maicalcio, who creates the graphics for the episodes, and Carlos Javier Felix, who translated Marién's interview to English. And to our audience, thank you so much for being here with us today. I am your host, Andres Hincapié, and if you weren't listening, now you are.
Thanks for listening to today's episode. To hear today's songs or other songs featured on our Were You Listening series, check out the Were You Listening playlist, which can be found at our website, tarheels.live/mixtapepodcast. Be sure to follow us on Instagram and Facebook at mixtape.podcast, as well as Twitter and YouTube, which are easily accessed through our website. Make sure you hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications for our posts. This episode was sponsored in part by the Orange County Arts Commission. Thanks for listening. This is Mixtape.